the most important speech I've ever made. I want to provide an update on our ongoing efforts to expose the tremendous voter fraud and irregularities which took place during the ridiculously long November 3rd elections. These irregularities are inexplicable unless there is a deliberate effort to accept ineligible ballots or fraudulent ballots.
President Trump posted a 46-minute-long speech last night on social media where he outlined numerous claims of what he called tremendous voter fraud. To no surprise, Facebook and Twitter were quick to place warnings on what Trump called the most important speech he'd ever make. While mainstream media took the bait and ran with it, look at some of the headlines for the past 24 hours. Donald Trump releases video statement repeating baseless vote fraud claims. Quote, in video, Trump spreads baseless claims about vote. Oh, you get the idea. Trump rehashes baseless election claim in 46-minute video from the White House. Trump escalates baseless, more and more and more. The list goes on. All about the baseless fraud accusations. You see it all there on the screen. Clearly, our media elites all got the same memo to use that buzzword baseless. Let's bring in attorney and contributor here to the first, Madison Gesiotto. Madison, Trump's claims, are they baseless? Let's just start with this. Are they without evidence? Because I was somebody just from watching Law and Order who was of the mind that a sworn affidavit is considered evidence.
Right, and you see in multiple instances and in multiple cases in states across the country that there is evidence that voter fraud did in fact occur. Now, whether or not the election is overturned remains to be seen. However, you can't argue that there wasn't evidence, that there was not votes counted that should not have been counted. You continue to see irregularities, incompetence, unlawful vote counting in many states. Not only do we have affidavits, but there was 545 sworn affidavits in 5 of the most critical states in over 14,000 incident reports filed. And it's pretty hypocritical to see many people, not only in the media, but politicians, and people, writing articles or tweeting out online, these same people, of course, very concerned about voter fraud in 2016, talking about voter fraud for the past 20 years, and all of a sudden voter fraud isn't a concern to them. It should be a concern to all of us, because whether or not it benefits you this time will not be the same next time. And we don't want to see, our country go down and become like many other countries across the world where elections have no integrity at all. There
was a lot of misrepresentation, Madison, a lot of misrepresentation of what the Attorney General said. He said the following: to date, we have seen no fraud on a scale that could have affected a different outcome in the election. All the Attorney General is stating here is that they haven't seen enough to flip the election, but this keeps getting reported as there's no fraud at all. Does the media at this point, do they just feel like they have no credibility to protect, so it doesn't make any difference? What do you think's going on here?
I'm honestly shocked. I mean, we look back even to 2016 and we saw that negative media coverage with Media Research Center coming out saying 91% of broadcast media coverage of the president was negative. Well, that's now been updated to say that it's actually 95%, just a short, less than 4 years later. It's really quite appalling. There's really no integrity left in the mainstream media. I mean, you turn on even Fox News sometimes nowadays that many people trusted a lot more than CNN, and you see completely fake news stories and coverage being put out about the president, about what's going on. And again, you don't have to like the president. You can vote for him, not vote for him, hate him, love him. Nobody cares. But we want to turn on the news and we want to hear real stories. And we're not seeing that anymore. And obviously, it's why a lot of people are turning to alternative media sources. But at the same time, it's simply not enough, because there are still a lot of people getting their stories from CNN, getting their information from these mainstream media networks that are providing false coverage. And so they're going to move on today, tomorrow, and next week and actually think that these stories are true, whether it comes, to the story you mentioned about Attorney General Barr, or New York Times puts out a headline just a few days ago saying Times called officials in every state, no evidence of voter fraud. Well, we have the Department of Justice, we have an FBI, we have cases and lawsuits going on across the country, and that's obviously not true. But the New York Times seems to think that they're the ultimate decision makers on this, and they're very misleading, and many others are as well. So I'm very disappointed, not surprised, but disappointed that it's come even farther than it had 3-4 years ago when we were complaining about how bad the coverage was.
Yesterday, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany tried to set the record straight. Madison, I want to have you react to what she told the country. Play it.
Some media outlets have incorrectly reported that the department has concluded its investigation of election fraud and announced an affirmative finding of no fraud, and that is not what the AP reported nor what the AG stated. I think a lot of the media didn't read beyond that one comment to the civil part versus the criminal part.
Well, I think maybe the discrepancy is, you have members of the Trump campaign coming forward and saying that there is hard evidence of widespread voter fraud enough to overturn the outcome of the election, and then you have the nation's top law enforcement officer, the Attorney General, saying if there is, he hasn't seen it.
Well, the Attorney General was speaking to what has come before his desk. And again, I'd point you to the campaign for specific questions on this, but I would just say generally they are pursuing civil litigation, which in fact the Attorney General explicitly said some of this is meant more for civil litigation, which is what the campaign is currently pursuing.
Madison, based on what you've seen so far in these presentations, what are your thoughts on the litigation that's ongoing here from the Trump legal team? Do you think that they're on it and they're going to get the answers we need?
I sure hope so. I mean, this is going to be a tough month to continue to push through this and to present not only this information to the courts, but to ultimately get the accurate information that is presented to the courts, ultimately presented to the American public. You see these questions going, against Kayleigh McEnany, in which they're very biased. And it's sad to see because, again, she's there to provide information from the White House, and they're just there to play games and do gotcha questions. And again, you mentioned the AG Barr statement, very misleading, the coverage of that. And of course, there are many witnesses who have signed affidavits who have not been interviewed yet by the Department of Justice. So we're awaiting many of those people hopefully to be interviewed to get some more information. And there is quite a bit of confusion, as Kayleigh mentions, about civil versus criminal litigation and charges, and many people don't understand that. And so making sure we start to get people to understand, what the process is, and that's going to be difficult, but, continuing throughout the next month.
Madison Gesiotto, good to see you, Madison. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Buck.
Hey, Team Buck, just want to say thanks so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more great content from The First, please click that subscribe button.